So the first thing you'll notice is that I am using Google Slides and not PowerPoint. The reason we use Google Slides here at 20 over 10 is because they are interactive. So you can have a couple different people on your team making edits to the slides, and in real time, everybody's got the same version. So you don't have to make edits and then send it back to someone and then they have to save and download that version. So Google Slides is great if you can use it for your slide deck. So just a little bit about myself. I'm Samantha Russell, the Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer at 20 over 10. I see lots of familiar names in the chat. So for all of you who joined us before, welcome back. If you are new to 20 over 10, we are a website and digital marketing platform specifically for advisors. So everything on our platform takes into consideration compliance, everything from archiving to making sure the content is compliant. And we have one-click compliant submissions with most of the major broker-dealers. If you are interested in staying on after the session is over for either a demo of 20 over 10's website platform or our new lead pilot platform, if you wouldn't mind just raising your hand so we can kind of get a sense of how many people want it and we can decide if we're going to do that. Okay, I see lots of hands raising, great. So again, the two products, we have the 20 over 10 website platform, and then we have lead pilot, which is our new social sharing landing page, email marketing platform. So maybe let us know in the chat which of the two you're most interested in, and then we can devote the most time to that. So at the very end, I will demo those platforms for you all. Okay, and if you haven't connected with me already, you can connect with me at Samantha20 on Twitter or Samantha C. Russell on LinkedIn. I love sharing content and interacting with advisors in those places. So, please feel free to connect with me. So what we're going to discuss today are the things you just saw on the poll. How do you actually host and record a webinar? How do you choose topics and what to talk about? How do you promote it to get really high registration rates? How do you prepare in advance? And then how do you keep people involved and engaged? On that note, you should have all had in your inbox this little worksheet that we sent out in advance, and you'll see there's just blank questions. So whether you have the fillable version that you want to do on your computer, or if you printed it out and want to write along, this is a great way to encourage participation and get people engaged. So you can do this for your own webinars, but also it will help all of you today. We know research shows us that when people have to pay attention for answers, they're more likely to retain that information later, especially when they're writing it down. So hopefully you can follow along, and at certain times I'll ask you to put your answers in the chat box to share with everyone else. So why webinars? Why are we talking about this today? 40% of webinar attendees, according to research we could find, become qualified leads for people. Someone's going to give you an hour of their time. They're typically really interested in what you have to say. And webinars are a medium that allows you to spend so much more time with a potential lead or customer. But for them, it's a really soft way to get to know your business, right? So they're getting to hear you talk. They get to see how educated you are on a topic or what your area of expertise is, a feel for what you are like as a human being, but they don't have to actually book a time on your calendar, right? So it's a little bit less scary than making the commitment to book a time on someone's calendar. You don't feel like you're going to be sold as much. So there's 4 key P's to a successful webinar: prep, promotion, presentation, and then post-event, or we just have it as post. So these are the 4 areas that you should be thinking in the back of your mind as you're setting up for a webinar. What do I need to do to prep? How am I going to promote it? Then the presentation itself, and then what are all the steps afterwards to convert the people who attended to leads? And that's the process we're going to walk you through today. So that was question number 1, the 4 P's to hosting a successful webinar. So just a quick story. When we launched 20 over 10 about 3.5, 4 years ago, we did not have a marketing budget anywhere near what I would like it to be. And so I was doing a lot of thinking about how I could share all this great knowledge that we had that we wanted to share with advisors in a friendly way, because we just didn't have the budget to go to conferences and pay, $20K to have the chance to speak. And so we started doing these webinars. And back in 2017, when we started, we would get about 50 signups, registrants per session. Today, we get anywhere from 400 to 600 on average for every event that we do. And that's a mixture of our current clients and potential new clients and prospects. So that's 1,100% growth in just 3 years. And I share this because what I want you to remember is that it is going to be a process to get to a high level of registrants, number one. Number two, you need to be consistent in order to see success. And the way to get people to keep coming back is to talk less about what you offer and more provide value. Be educational. You can keep your brand and your company name on all the slides to reinforce who you are. But at the end of the day, people are going to show up if you're going to teach them something. That's really what's going to make someone keep coming back for more. So I'd love to ask all of you right now, if you've ever been to a 20 over 10 webinar in the past, whether one on SEO or video marketing or how to use LinkedIn and Instagram, any of them, drop in the chat and let other people know which of the ones you've attended so far has been most beneficial to you, or something that you really remember from another webinar. And I'd love to take a look at what people had found really valuable in the past. So as we're doing that, let's talk about what you need to do when it comes to prepping for the webinar. So you need to choose a time, and we're going to talk about what times are best. Choose your title and your topic. Identify your technology. Appoint a moderator. This is crucial. If I didn't have Amanda in the background helping me put things in the chat log, there'd be a lot of things I miss. And she's also able to answer a lot of the questions live, written without me having to say it over the screen. So having somebody in the background to help moderate, they can also help with tech issues. So this could be an admin on your team, another marketing person, another advisor. Make sure that you test before you go live your first time, right? So set it all up as a practice session, you know, go live, launch it, and then the two of you, and you can have somebody else from your office be like your fake attendee, can practice and make sure you got the technology down. And then of course you want to plan out your promotional schedule. So what days or times of the week work best for webinars? You'll notice I said we do ours the third Thursday of every month, and that's because we have found, and studies also corroborate this, that Thursdays are best for webinar attendance. So if you're thinking of doing a webinar, Wednesdays or Thursdays are best. And if you're wondering what time to do, we always do 3 p.m. because we find it's near the end of the day that a lot of people are, their brains are getting tired, they're ready to learn something rather than you know, be actively working on something else more complex, but they're not leaving for the day already. So 3 p.m. is a really good time for us. However, if your audience is retirees or your audience is, you know, doctors, right, you're going to have people on different schedules. And so it's not always going to be this one size fits all approach. You might need to play around with different dates and times. We'll get into the discussion of whether you should be doing all of these live or pre-recorded here in a second, but this would be if you're thinking about what's the best way to get the most people to sign up for those live sessions, this is what you want to think about. So Thursdays around 2 or 3 p.m., if you look at every webinar given overall, that's usually when they get the biggest signups. So once you decide what time you're going to do it, you want to think about what your actual webinar topic is going to be about. And when you are titling it and coming up with a description, always keep in the back of your mind, what is this person going to get by giving you an hour of their time, right? So you want to be the expert, or you want to invite an expert in who can really dive deep and give really great little tidbits and answer questions. When you're thinking about titling it, any sort of how to, you know, learn how to do this or how to do this in 5 steps is really going to get the highest number of registrants. People like webinars as a learning tool to learn about things they don't yet know. So you can see here 5 ways to grow your network and your net worth is the title of this one. So be very specific about what somebody will learn when they sign up. So once you've got your title, you know what time you're doing it. If you don't already have a platform set up that can host a webinar, you need to choose one. So I know a lot of you might already use something like Zoom for meetings or GoToMeeting for meetings. Those 2 platforms are by far the most popular that I see other people using for webinars. And so if you're already using one of them, using their webinar platform, I think is a great way to just stay within that ecosystem. Livestorm, am I saying that right? Yeah, Livestorm, sorry. My image was cutting it off there. Livestorm is one that's new to me, I just learned about, but they have a beautiful user interface and it's really user friendly. So these are all options for you. If you're just starting out from scratch, you can check any of them out. These are the things you want to consider. What is it going to look like when you want to set it up and put that registration page on your website? How many seats can you get? For most of you, realistically, you're probably never going to get more than about 50 people signed up. So you might not need that many seats, right? How do they help you sequence people in an email once you've had the webinar? That's something to look at. And then any of the in-app engagement features. So for instance, with Zoom, you can put a green screen behind you and have your logo up there afterwards. Or they have like a retouching tool. So if you feel like you don't look great, got bags under your eyes, it can retouch it. And then of course, important things like how does it integrate with your CRM or your sales enablement tool, those kinds of questions. So I know you're all gonna ask, well, which one do you prefer? The one that you're all on today, obviously, Zoom. So we love Zoom because it's cost efficient. It's really a soup to nuts platform. So it integrates with everything, and you can go from the very beginning sessions of prepping all the way to post engagement, all through that one platform. So you can set up surveys and polls and send them out in advance. You can send out reminder emails to people about making sure that they register. You can download the recording. Obviously, you can record to the cloud or your computer. You can then have gated content. So someone has to, put in their information in order to get the webinar. It's really a full spectrum platform. And you can see here for the cost, it's not that expensive at all. So we used to use GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar. And I thought they were fine. I just didn't like the interface as much as I do like Zoom. But again, it's a personal preference. You need to look at them both and see. I put Zoho up here. I don't know how many of you would realistically use it, but if you're already using some of their other marketing tools, you might consider it. And then that live storm, like I said, is one that's new that I'm actually really excited about and want to play around with. It's more expensive, but they have a beautiful, beautiful interface that just looks really clean and smart and modern for people. So I'm going to just escape here because I can't see the questions in the chat box without coming back into this mode. So I just want to make sure that there was no other big questions that I missed. Okay. Good. It looks like you guys were all just telling us which webinar that you like the most. So thank you all for that. Okay, so if you have any questions about technology, go in and put those in there now, whether it's slides or where to host or anything like that. I'm going to get into how to upload the recording and whether you should use like YouTube or Vimeo or how you want to do that in the post section. But in terms of prep, if you have any other questions about which tool, let me know. But again, Zoom is the one that I would highly suggest, and it's the one that we've used the most. Okay, so once we've figured out what tool that we want to use, let's talk next about what other tech you need. So if you see me sitting here, I do not use a headphone, and I think the quality of the audio is fine, but depending on your computer that you have, you may want to use headphones. And if you're turning your webinar replay into like a podcast, you definitely want to make sure that you have a microphone and headphones for the best audio quality. Again, I have found that it's okay without it, so I don't use it, but if you're really going to convert it into audio file, you want to use that. For slides, again, I love Google Slides. I know Microsoft has their own tools that you can use. I always suggest when you're doing these to make sure you're hardwired on your internet connection and don't use Wi-Fi if possible, so that you don't have to worry about, that going out on you. Okay, the part that you all said that you were most excited to learn. So that's all the prep. You choose your tool, you choose your topic, you get everything set up. Now you got to create the webinar and start promoting it. So you'll go to Zoom, you put your title in, you put all your info in, and it's going to create a registration page for you. So actually, let me just show you that first. Okay, here we go. So if you come here into Zoom, or I'm sorry, into 20/10's webinar page, you'll see that we have it set up so that anytime we create a webinar in Zoom, it just feeds into our website as a new webinar option. So it's feeding that into our website. Now we did have to do a little bit of coding to make this happen. If you don't want it to, you're not hosting as many webinars as us, which most of you will not because you're not technology platforms. Instead, what you'll be able to do is just take the registration link and set up a little display for it. So here I have an example from the financial gym. So they just have an image, they have the name and the title, and then you can click RSVP here, and it takes you to that registration page, right? So it gives you even more information, and you can register for it. Then once they've got their sessions that have already happened, you can click watch the recording. Now they're using GoToWebinar, but you can see in order to watch the recording, you have to put your information in, so it's gating it. So either way, on your website, all you're doing is taking that link and hyperlinking out to either the recording or the registration page. So really, really easy to do. With 20 over 10, you'll see, you know, if you click on these, so for instance, for our all of our 20 over 10 clients that are on the call today, we're going to be having a workshop next week, which you'll be invited to shortly if you haven't already, how to use our in-app SEO tools to boost your site's ranking. So when we clicked on that, it brings us to this page. Now we can register for the event. So again, it's really easy. You set it up, and then you're just going to take that hyperlink and put it on the page. I'm going to show you how to do that in the app, in the 20 over 10 app here, in just a second. Somebody did ask about, can you host webinars on the basic Zoom? With all of these platforms, Zoom, GoToMeeting, they all have a regular version that just allows you to do like one-to-one meetings, and you might have up to, let's say, 10 or 15 people. A webinar is different in that, as you saw, I'm the only one presenting, and it's not like a normal meeting where you all come in with your volume turned on. You're an attendee of the webinar. So all of these platforms, they have a meeting version and then a version you can upgrade to get to unlock the webinar features. So if you have regular Zoom, you'd want to go in and upgrade your account for webinars. The same thing for GoToMeeting. Okay, let's go back here. So again, you'll choose the way that you want to display it on your page. Okay, so then you've got the webinar set up. Now you want to start promoting people to go to that page and to start registering, right? And here's my slide that will show you how to do that. So what we like to say is that, again, on your worksheet, you have this, there are 5 key elements to any high converting landing page. And so we've got them listed out here, but I'm going to go top to bottom. So this is a landing page that was created by Mark Sharp, who's one of our clients here at 20 over 10. And so you can see he's got, are you retirement ready? Join us for an upcoming webinar to learn how to better organize your finances, clarify what you can and cannot pay for, and obtain peace of mind. Register now, seats are limited, grab your spot. So that's the unique selling point, right? Like, what is it that you're trying to get people to do? That USP, that unique selling point, should be right up there at the top. This kind of looks hard to read because we had to zoom out a lot to get it all on one page, but imagine this is in, you know, on a screen and you have to scroll to see everything. So this would be the big statement up at the top. Then the call to action, save my seat, you want it to be up at the top right here, and then again at the bottom. So if somebody starts to read, but they want to read more, you want to catch them either at the bottom or right at the top. So your call to action should be listed there twice. Then we have what's called proof, or proof of concept, right? So why is this important? Why are we talking about it? Why is it something someone would want to attend? So he has 6 in 10 workers feel at least somewhat stressed out about preparing for retirement. And he's got that statistic listed. And then the benefits is listed below. So here's what you're going to learn. So here's what the unique selling point is. Here's what we're going to discuss. Here's why it's important. Here is the call to action. Here's our proof of concept. And then the benefits that you'll get for attending. And then always, always, always make sure you include the speaker's name and image. This just really helps somebody realize when they go to this webinar, who's going to be presenting it. It puts a face and a name to the session, and it doesn't seem like this corporate branded thing, right? So these are the elements that you want in your registration landing page or your emails however you decide to promote it. So you can easily create landing pages through the 20 over 10 app. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. I have it listed here so that you have the slides afterwards. But if you come to 20 over 10, okay, and can everybody still see my screen? I hope so. Down at the bottom, you can see here where it says add new. So you're just going to add a new page. So I've already done this ahead of time, but you would click add new page. You can title it whatever you want. So it could be, you know, retirement readiness webinar. And you can say whether or not you want to hide it from the main navigation. So for most of you, you don't want this on the homepage of your website or in the navigation bar as one of the page options. So we're going to say that we don't want it to be displayed and we don't want that navigation bar at the top to distract people. So we're going to say yes. You could even hide your logo if you wanted to here. And then you're just going to go ahead and create the page. Once the page is created, you're able to come in and start formatting that page in all different ways. So you can type in anything that you want to build out the page. We have a landing page workshop we've done in the past that shows you how to set these up in 5 minutes or less using our tools, which we can send out when we send out the replay. It's, Amanda, I think it's a YouTube video. But I already set one up here, this Lunch and Learn. Again, it just took me 5 minutes. So you can see I titled it up here. I said, you know, here's how you get set up. And then once you create the template, if you're going to do a lot of different webinars, you can just change this one template very, very easily, right? You can either just put the hyperlink for someone to register for the event directly in here, or you could create a form if you want this to be more integrated with your CRM. It depends kind of how you want it to be set up. Our support team can help you answer those questions. But let's say you just were going to link out to a button to get people to register, right? So we'll just say register. If I could spell. So we're going to say register now. We're going to find that registration URL. And now we're going to hyperlink just that. And we're going to say we want it to open in a new tab. And we're going to insert it. And then we can style it. So we want this to be a button. So we're just going to make it a button, right? So you can see how fast that was to make a button. Now I can sort of play around with where do I want it to be aligned on the page? How big do I want the button to be? But that's as simple as that. Now when somebody clicks that, they're going to be taken to your registration page. So really, really easy to set these up here. Okay. Sure I got everything open. Okay. So somebody just asked, they thought they missed it. We didn't get to there yet, about how far out you should start promoting. So the first thing you should know is that the email promotion is what's going to be your best friend. Build up an email list. I always suggest inviting both your current clients and your prospects if it's a topic that's general enough. Email drives 57% of webinar registrants according to GoToWebinar. So that is a significant number, and that's what we see here too. You know, we'll get some from social media, some from, you know, word of mouth or videos that we do, but for the most part, it's from email. So actually, why don't you drop in the chat right now and let us know how you found out about this webinar? Was it an email? Was it from social media, or was it from a video some other way? So let us know and we can take a look and see if this holds true for all of you today. So when you think about promoting your own email, you actually want to start about 2 weeks in advance. So 2 weeks in advance is when you want to start promoting it. Again, think about sending a series of emails. And I like to start on a Tuesday would be like the first one we would send out. And between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. is when you're going to get the highest number of people who will pay attention to it and actually sign up. So you want to adjust that for the time zone that they're in. You know, if all of your list is in one area code, that's pretty easy. If you have lots of people in different area codes, then, you know, it should be time adjusted. And you optimally would want to use a different subject line, content, and imagery in the email for each one to get them excited about it. So we use MailChimp for all of our webinar promotions, and sometimes Amanda will put like a really fun GIF in there saying time is running out. We play with the subject lines, so it shouldn't be the exact same message every single time. But always, always, always make sure that you add can't attend in person, sign up anyways, and we'll send you the recording, because a lot of people will think, oh, I'm going to miss it, so I don't want to sign up. But if you put that in there, you'll get a much higher registration rate. So again, about 15 days, 2 weeks out, you want to send that first email, and then about the week before you send one, and then one more either the day of or a day or two before. That's typically what we like to do. You can also incorporate information about this into your newsletters to encourage people to sign up that way too. So if you're already doing a newsletter, use it. But I thought this was really interesting. So this is a little chart that shows you the percentage of increase of how many people actually end up registering depending on the number of emails sent. So with one email reminder, this is for one company, granted, but we find the same thing here. So with one email reminder, 256 people registered. 2 email reminders, 474. 3, 807. The fourth one you'll see, it actually dropped down then. So that tells us that you don't want to send more than 3 email reminders. We actually don't do more than 2. We don't want to overwhelm people with emails. So we have our initial email telling them 2 weeks ahead of time, then the week before we remind them, and then the week of. So that's what I suggest that you do in order for optimal registration. So I saw some questions coming in that I'll take a couple of minutes to answer. So yes, everybody is agreeing pretty much that they saw and heard about the webinar today from email, a couple of social media ones out there. So yeah, that's great. And somebody, just asked, was the ideal time to send 8 a.m. or 8 p.m.? Sorry about that, it's 8 a.m. So you wanna send your email promotions between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. in the morning based on their time zone, which your email marketing service should allow you to do. Okay, so once you've got email down though, you still do want to promote it on social media. You can see a few people in the chat here said that that's how they heard about our presentation today. But also the reason for social media is that what you're doing is not just getting more registrants that way, you're getting social proof, right? You're building your brand, you're telling other people in your network what you do, what kinds of information you provide, and you never know who's watching. So for every single webinar we do, we pick up a handful of new people who'd never heard about 20 over 10 before because somebody else retweeted our registration link or commented on it. So it's a really great tactic, and you want to make sure that you do both. So what I like to suggest for social media promotion is the same time frame. So 2 weeks out when you start promoting it via email, that's also the same time frame when you want to start promoting it via social media. People always ask me, how many times should I post about it? There is no hard and fast rule. I would say, depending on how often you're already posting other content, it could be a lot. So for instance, on Twitter, we're posting on Twitter anywhere from 4 to 10 times a day. So reminding people about our webinar 3 times a week is just a drop in the bucket on Twitter, right? But we would never want 3 times a week to remind them of the webinar on LinkedIn where we're not posting as much content. So you want to make sure that you're doing it enough that people see it, but you don't overwhelm them where they want to unfollow you, right? I got this question ahead of time, should you pay to sponsor? What I would suggest doing is create your post. So here's 2 good examples of ones I found. And then you can boost that post or sponsor that post that's already been written organically. So create the post, launch it, and then you would go into, for instance, Facebook and boost that post to get even more signups. Another thing, that you can do is to record a short video. So you may have seen, for instance, for this webinar, I recorded a quick video saying, hey, join me on Thursday. Here's what I'm going to be sharing. Here's why it's important. Hope you can attend. The videos can really give people a sense of what you're going to talk about. And then you can also ask other people on your team, other people you do business with, to promote the webinar to their group. So if you're doing a really great webinar on a topic that a partner or a center of influence or someone that you do a lot of referral business with would be great for their audience to get access to, they will promote it for you. We do this all the time A lot of, for instance, the broker dealers we work with, they'll say, oh, you're going to do a webinar all about X. You know, we have so many advisors who'd love to hear about that. We'll send it out. So don't be afraid to reach out to your networks and say, hey, you know, estate planning attorney, or hey, real estate agent, I'm doing a whole webinar about first-time home buying and how you budget and save for it. And your real estate agent could send that out to the people on their list. Or, you know, hey, estate planning attorney, I'm talking about taking care of your heirs and prepping for that and making financial decisions. And it'd be great. Maybe we could team up and do the webinar together. So, you know, don't be afraid to ask your partners to help promote it as well. How many of these people that we get to sign up will actually attend? That is the $1 million question, right? So the webinar, what we call the registrant to attendant conversion rate, is sort of sad. So you work so hard, you know, you might get 600 people signed up, as we do. And then typically what you'll see is about 43% of people actually show up. So that isn't, I share this with you because when we first started out, you know, I'd see this big number and get so excited. And then about half that would actually come, and I'd be really bummed that day. But keep in mind, you're going to send out the replay and the slides, and you'll get a lot of people that will watch it and will go through your slide deck after the fact. So it's still worthwhile to get as many people to register as possible, even if they don't all actually attend. So once somebody has actually registered, don't just register and say, okay, you're all set. Here's a great example. Sorry, it's sort of blurry, but once they've already signed up, you can have a request that they do something else. So I gave a couple examples here. You can ask them to complete a survey or tell you 2 questions they have about the event. You can encourage them to subscribe to your newsletter or blog for more tips, or follow you on social media. So it's a good time while they're already invested and interested in your content to ask them to do something else, and you'll get a pretty high conversion rate. Just only choose one of these things. You know, you don't want to ask for all of these things at once. All right, so let's dive into the actual presentation. I'm going to go through these kind of fast. I just wanted to show some examples from other advisors. So the first thing to keep in mind is a lot of people have asked me, how much time do you spend talking about what services you provide and, you know, how you help people and your pricing and all of that good stuff. I really suggest that in the very beginning, you do what I did today. You say, how many of you would like to stay on and learn more about what we offer? Let people opt into that and tell them you'll do it at the end. You hopefully will give them so much great content and value that they'll want to stay and learn how they can work with you. But if you front load it like that, you're going to get a lot of people that sign off who think you're just trying to promote your services, right? So you want to provide really good value. And then for the people who really are good fits for your business and who are interested, they'll stay on to learn more. You can see here, this is an example from May Street Financial Planning. They do a fantastic job hosting webinars all throughout the year on a variety of topics. And in their webinars, they just make sure they have their logo nice and clear and big in the right-hand corner on every slide. So they're not promoting themselves outright, but they're reinforcing that brand on every slide, right? So you'll see, like, we have our little 20/10 logo. We're not as in your face, but this is one option too, to just be, you know, really reinforcing that brand awareness. So what should you present on? Here's some topics I've seen recently that I think are always getting the most signups. So any kind of tax strategies, tax options. David Zoller, I follow him on LinkedIn. He's great. And he does little video clips and longer form content. So you can also take a webinar, and then when it's done, edit out part of the video and post it on social media. So you're not showing the whole webinar, but just part of it. So that's an example there. Anything to do with money and relationships. So how do you talk with your spouse or your partner or your kids or your elderly parent about money? Any kind of behavioral finance things. Also think about the holidays. So if your demographic is a lot of business owners and they want year-end tax strategies, or you work with a lot of young families and it's back to school time, and they're thinking about saving for college, you know, you can think about the time of year and plan content according to that as well. The number one tip I have for your slides, if you think about my presentation today, is to put as many visuals on your slide deck as possible. People really respond to imagery. Our brains process imagery 60,000 times faster than text. So the more you can reinforce your message with charts or graphs, which really lend themselves well to financial topics, but even just imagery, right? So here's an example from Myra Wealth, which is a firm that specializes in working with immigrants. And, you know, he's doing a webinar. You can see him sharing his video camera. And then he's got just his text, but he's got this great picture of this elderly couple on the left there, right? So even if you don't have time to pull examples or you're not sure what you could use, you could even just use some good stock photography that will help liven up your slides to make it more engaging. And then if you really do have a process or a chart and you're not sure how to make it, you can use a tool like Canva. For those of you who have been here before, you know I talk about Canva all the time. It's a free tool that allows you to make amazing images, graphs. It's Canva. Amanda will put the link in. But you sign up, you choose a template, you drop your content in, and now your presentation looks so much better, right? Because you can create these really great visuals in your presentation. So a few things. Speak clearly, but extemporaneously. You can see I'm not just reading my slides. That is the biggest way to make this a snooze fest. Keep your slide deck concise, so use lots more pictures and images over text, and share as many of the personal stories that you can, because people are more drawn to stories and storytelling than facts. And of course, you want to make sure you remove any distractions, turn off your phone. It shouldn't be loud in the background. As I mentioned, having Amanda here is crucial, so get a moderator if you can. And then don't forget to share your camera. You will get so much more engagement and people will walk away being much more inclined to want to get to know you and book a time on your calendar if they can actually see you versus if it's just your slide deck. So don't hide behind your slide deck. A couple other ways to make it engaging, just like I did in the beginning, use polls. So again, in Zoom or GoToWebinar, you can set up polls right in the app and preload your questions so that you're all ready to go and you just launch the, the polls when you start. And then you can also ask your attendees for input through the chat box like I've been doing today, and you've all been so great in answering. You do want to mute your attendees. It would be terrible if, like today we had 200 people on and you were all trying to talk over each other. So I highly suggest you keep people muted and you ask them to put their questions into writing. It keeps things much smoother. But again, printing out some sort of worksheet or checklist and having people fill in the blank is also a really great way to be very engaging, right? So if you have a bunch of people on and you're talking about retirement planning, have them fill in the blank. How much do you on average spend on groceries every month? On average, how much do you spend on your mortgage? All these different things, helping them come up with what their expenses could be in retirement, right? So make it engaging in your presentation so that people have a better experience. Okay, so then post-webinar, how do we actually convert the people who join us into prospects for our business, right? This is incredibly important. You go through all the work and effort to create this amazing content and put this webinar together. You don't want people to just join you and then disappear. So you want to make sure that you can follow up with them and get that information. So I'm going to dive into that and share more information. Just looking through the questions really quick about what you guys are asking about Zoom and analytics. There is some analytics that they give you across all of these platforms. The number one tip I will say that we've learned the hard way, all of this great chat that's happening right now and dialogue in the chat box, that does not get pulled over after the webinar is over. So we will stay on, usually turn off the screen share, turn off the video, but go through the chat and write down anyone who asked a question we need to follow up with, or take screenshots of the chat log. The questions that people put in the Q&A box do get documented for you, but the chat box does not. So if you really want to make sure you can follow up personally with the people who ask questions and you want to remember who those people are, you can really harp that they put their questions in the Q&A box instead of the chat log. So again, the chat log for reporting will not be pulled over for you. And then in terms of topics and what topics to do, should you do the same topics all the time or rotate? We do a different topic every single month. And that is where you'll see, I think, the most success. If you have a webinar that performed really well, you can keep it evergreen, and we'll talk about that here in a second, and keep it as a gated content and then update it. So we do a SEO webinar every year. So it's always really well attended. SEO is always changing. So we have the webinar, people can go and look at it anytime, but then every year we do a new version of it as well. All right, so let's talk about converting our registrants to attendees or to leads. So, you know, you have a lot of different ways you can distribute the content after you have created it. So there's two main options that you have to think about what you want to do. Do you want to make the webinar accessible to anyone? So anyone can go and watch your webinar at any time, see all the content, or do you want to what we call gate the content, where they have to put in their email to unlock and to watch it? So there's two different schools of thought on this. If you go to our blog, it would be evident where we fall and where we stand. Do any of you know? Can any of you guess which one? Are we number one, give it out to everyone for free, or number two, gate it? See if anyone can guess. So if you go to our webinars page, you'll see all of the content there. Michael Baker, guess, thank you, Michael, gated. So actually, it's the opposite. I am such a big believer in teaching advisors as much as I can and giving them this information that I don't gate the content. So when you come here, everything is available to you to watch without you having to give up your email address, right? So for those people who register for our event live, yes, they're giving us their email, but anyone can come to our webinar page at any time on our blog and watch these previous webinars we've done for free. They're always free, but you know, not having to give up their email. So the reason we do that is because we know that the best leads and prospects are really going to want to learn a lot about us, want to see how we help people like them. And if they are a good fit, they eventually will reach out. That's at least my belief. I would rather create an inbound marketing funnel that pushes people who are ready and a really great warm lead to us, rather than an outbound funnel where we're spending a ton of time spinning our wheels with people who might be 3 years out from being ready to work with us, right? We have a small sales team. We have just about 3 or 4 people that work on our sales team full time. So, you know, they have a lot of great leads. I don't want them spinning their wheels with people who aren't really ready. They just wanted to watch the webinar. So we leave it open for everybody. You can think about which way you want to do it. And there's a lot of other companies that do it the opposite way. So this one I was showing you before, the financial gym, when you come here and you click on something to watch the webinar, you have to give them their email to watch it. That is the way most people do it. But I will say, how many of you would go to that and end up not giving their email? Raise your hand, because you don't want people starting to spam your inbox, right? All the hands are starting to raise. You'd rather just watch it and see, is this person going to give me good content? Do they know what they're talking about? So I'm a huge believer in not gating it. Again, it's up to you. And I'm going to give you both of the options on how to do both, because there's some of you sitting there saying, Samantha, you're crazy. I want to gate my content. So I'm going to show you how to do both. Okay. So once you've made that choice, number one or number two, and I'd love to hear how many of you are on team number one, make it accessible to all, and how many of you are on team two, gate it. I'd love to see where everybody stands today. And it's okay if you're on team two. You don't have to agree with me, right? That's why this is a great community. Oh, we're seeing lots of team ones. I love it. Okay, so once you decide where you fall, here's what you want to think about. So if you are on team one, make it the webinar accessible to all. After you've recorded your webinar to the cloud, and you can record it to your desktop, but why would you do that and take up a ton of file space? Just record it to the cloud. You want to quick edit it, right? So in this webinar, for instance, we will edit out any of the questions at the end, the intro part, if I'm talking about housekeeping and questions. You can use a couple different pieces of software to that. I've listed them here. If you're going to upload it to YouTube anyways, YouTube actually will let you edit it right in YouTube's app. So that's great. I always suggest uploading it to YouTube. If you don't want to use YouTube, you can use Vimeo. That's another option. But YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. We get people who find our webinars by just searching things on YouTube all the time. So why wouldn't you just upload it to YouTube? Make sure you put a great title in there. So anything we upload, we make sure we have the term like financial advisors or investment managers or financial planning so that people will find it. And then the last thing, and what I have these pictures of here, is that you want to create a really nice thumbnail image to get more people to click. So in this example here, this image here is actually the webinar, but this woman, Tiffany, has created this thumbnail on YouTube so that people will be more likely to click it, right? So she's just, again, probably used Canva to create this little thumbnail image. For more examples of that, if you go to, for instance, our YouTube channel, which I highly suggest you all subscribe to 20 over 10's YouTube channel, because we do, well, post a video every Monday, like a 3 or 4 minute video that is just a quick marketing tip. But you'll see, you know, we have all of these little images that are more enticing for people to click on. That's just a thumbnail that you're going to upload to your video. So it's a really easy thing that you can do to make your video more enticing for people to want to click on. So you want to upload the video to YouTube, edit it, put that little thumbnail on it, and now you're good to go. Now you can add it to your website, to your landing page, however you want to disseminate it, right? So to create a blog post all about it, so again, if we go back to 20 over 10's webinars page, if you click on any of these, so right, how to hire and utilize an intern, you'll see that we have it embedded right in the blog post, and then we have timestamps about everything we talked about. This is really, really crucial for SEO purposes. So you're going to put all your timestamps there so that your site can have a better chance to rank for those keywords. You also see that we linked out to all different other blog posts that we've done on these similar topics. So we're creating a network of links within, you know, within the post itself. And then at the bottom, we always upload our slide deck to SlideShare, which is through LinkedIn. It's another place that people can find your content. So you upload it to SlideShare, people can go through all of the slides, and then you can embed that slide deck into your blog post. And then at the bottom, you just want to make sure that you have this call to action. So Tom said that's too time consuming. Tom, this is why you need an intern. Go back and watch how to utilize a marketing intern to help your business. If you just do the webinar, you can pass off all of this to them and have them set it all up. So I highly suggest that you do it this way. Again, you're going to get the best SEO performance. You're going to get a lot of people finding you who are just doing a Google search and stumbling upon your content. If you are on team number 2 and you want to gate the content, here's what you would, where you would go back to those built-in tools from Zoom or GoToWebinar. So they have an option where you gate it, and then when you click on it, the person has to give you this information in order to get that gated content. Simple as that. If you are going to gate the content, then again, going back to that example I showed before, make sure that you're at least listing out the title, what it was about, so that somebody who wants to watch it is more compelled to actually put in their information because they're so excited to see what it's all about. Okay, again, I know I showed you this already, but if you already have I showed you how to do the link. If you have a 20 over 10 website and now you want to add in the replay of it, so you have your link. So let's just do, here's one I did last week on key performance indicators that every financial advisor should track, right? So we go into 20 over 10, and now we're just gonna click this little insert video, and boom, it's there. As easy as that. So if you have a 20 over 10 website, again, you're just gonna hover over wherever you want to put the video, click on the little insert video icon, and then put the hyperlink in. And it is as easy as that to put the replay in. Again, this would be if you're not gating the content, right? That's how you would do it. All right. Another quick tip when you want to get more people to be excited about this content you've created. So you'll see here on the right, I said, did you miss our presentation at eMoney? Here's what we covered. You could do this for a webinar. Include an example of a slide that you created and tell people, if you missed the webinar, you missed the presentation, comment below, and I'll send you the link to the recording. So you already have it. It's up on your blog. They could find it if they want to, but it's a great way to get a lot of people engaging with your content on social and commenting below, and then you can send them the link. But make sure you use a really great slide from your slide deck so that they're more enticed to want to get that information from you. So how do you follow up by email? All of these tools that we mentioned, Zoom, GoToWebinar, Livestorm, they have the ability for you to send out the replay recordings right from them, Or you can use your email marketing provider like MailChimp or Constant Contact to send it out. You do want to have two separate lists. So you want all the people that registered and attended, which your webinar provider will give you, and then everyone who registered but did not attend. So you should have two different messages, right? For the people who registered and attended, you know that they got the message of the webinar. You can be a little bit harder to say, you know, here, book a time on my calendar. I hope you found this helpful. But for those who did not attend, you would more just want to say, here's why you should watch this and it's worth your time. Now, someone was asking about analytics. This is a great tip if you're wanting to know, well, who's going to be the best leads of the people that attended my webinar. So here's how you can identify really hot leads from your webinar. Go back and through your analytics from your provider, look at how much time the person spent in the webinar, how engaged they were. So, you know, did they ask questions? Did they raise their hand? There was also like an engagement rate that a lot of the platforms will give you. And what it's telling you is whether or not they had other screens up over your screen. So they weren't really paying attention to you. You can also look at, did they attend previous webinars? Did they answer any surveys or polls or any other marketing you've done? And then you kind of give them a score or a check mark for each of these things. And if somebody has quite a few check marks, you know they're a much hotter lead, right? So then you take all those really good leads and you want to follow up with them strategically. So typically what we do, I know this is saying you should send it the next or that same day. We do these at 3 o'clock on a Thursday. I'm not going to make my team stay here all night trying to send this to all of you. I think the next day is just fine. So what we do is send the replay the next day. So we transcribe the recording, we get it all set up, and the next day the webinar replay goes out. And then what we do is within 5 to 7 days, our sales team will reach out to anybody who seems like they're a good lead, right, from the webinar. And they'll offer them a time on their calendar if they want to talk. So we're not calling people. We don't have people's phone numbers, just an email saying, hey, did you get value out of the webinar? Would you like to talk about how our tool can help you accomplish X? And then we'll send out 2 more emails within the next 30 days, reiterating a value point from the webinar and again, following up to see if they want to book a time on our calendar. So here's 2 actual examples of emails, and I put them in the slide deck. So if you want to get a sense of how to write these, this is one that somebody on our team actually used after a webinar we did with Kyle Moore about how to start a financial planning firm. So you can see here, he talks about, you know, thanks for registering. It was a great webinar. Here's what we learned. Here's how 20 over 10 allows you to do the things that Kyle did to grow his business. And I'd love to connect with you, talk about your own goals and see if it'd be a good fit. And if you are, you know, you can book on my calendar. These like weird first name calendar link, we use a tool called Outreach, which is a sales enablement tool. So this is why you see that, but you could use whatever tool you have. And then this is another example from Aweber, which is an email marketing platform. So this is 1 month after the webinar. And they send an email saying, it's been a month since you've registered, wanted to check in, see how everything's going. And then they gave some content, some blog posts. So, right, so if you do a webinar about talking to your loved ones, your elderly loved ones about end-of-life care or something, and then you had other articles about end-of-life care, you could send that content to them in an email like a month later just to continue to drip on them, right? So hopefully that gave you a start to finish overview of everything you need to do in order to launch and host successful webinars.